Hello and welcome to this week's InConversation, in which I talk to people in the Northeast's dynamic and exciting cybersecurity industry. My name is Phil Jackman and I lead on CyberNorth, Dynamo Northeast cybersecurity cluster, supported by Accenture and the Innovation Super Network. We're part of the UK Cyber Cluster Collaboration, or UKC3, and recognised by both DCMS and NCSC as representing the region. So today, I'm joined by Annabel Berry, Chief Executive at Sapphire. Hi Annabel, how are you?
Hi Phil, thanks very much for having me.
It's a pleasure. So can we start a bit about telling us about your role at Sapphire and a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the information security industry for, 23, 4 years now. And I've been at Sapphire for the past 8, 9 years, and I've been running the organization for the last 6 years. So, so I'm the chief exec. So my job to oversee the running of the organization and its growth and the strategy moving forward. And obviously we're headquartered in Darlington, hence us having this conversation. So, and we're very proud that the roots for Sapphire are in the Northeast. That's where our heritage comes from. And, you know, although we've grown the company across various other regions in the UK, we still very much, you know, have our roots and our main offices in Darlington. So.
Excellent. Yes, I've been aware of you for some time, but I hope you don't mind me saying, but you don't have a traditional background in cybersecurity, if there is such a thing. So English language, literature, leadership. How did you find your way into cybersecurity then?
Yes, that's a good question. I talk about this a lot because I think it's important for people who don't have necessarily technical backgrounds to talk about how they got into the industry, and that's something I'm quite passionate about. So yeah, my background, as you said, I did a degree in English. I did my dissertation on Jane Austen, which is about as far removed as from cyber as you can possibly get. But I was very lucky that I was you know, I was introduced by somebody to an organization that was a cybersecurity organization back in the late 90s. And I was really excited about the opportunity to go and work for them. And I didn't know anything about the industry at all at that time. And I thought, well, it was probably going to be something I'd do for a while, and then I'd probably move on to something, you know, that was more suited to my background and the subjects that I'd studied. But I got completely captivated by it as an industry. I thought it was incredibly exciting. It was fast paced. It was an industry where I felt that we could help people move forward in organizations, and that was something that was very important to me. And here I am 23 to 24 years later, still in it, and really excited still to be here. And I think because it is fast paced and fast changing, that's the thing that's kept me captivated and excited and interested in it, really. So I'm really grateful to the person who made that recommendation to me back in the late 90s, you know, that he did at the time. And yeah, it was a bit of a leap, but one I'm really pleased that I took.
I think you're a living demonstration that we need all sorts of skills within the industry. It's not just a technical role. I've had this discussion many times with the National Cybersecurity Centre, but there you go. So Sapphire has been an ever-present, certainly in my mind, in the region's cybersecurity scene. I think it's been around 25 years or so. How's business been during this pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really challenging 18 months, like it has done, you know, it has been for everybody. And I mean that just in the wider sense of everything that we've all been through in the last 18 months. But really happy to say that Sapphire have navigated our way really well through the pandemic. Obviously, the transition of working from home was an easy one for us. We're obviously a tech company, so we pretty much had all the systems there ready. It was just a question of making those available and making the decision to send everybody home, which we did actually just before lockdown happened. And the team really stepped up to the mark, really. I mean, they've been amazing in terms of the way that they transitioned to working at home. And of course, we were dealing with that at the time when the risks around cyber particularly were going through the roof, right in the early few months. And lots of attack and lots of activity going on, and really being able to help our customers try and deal with the challenges of that, of operationally not only trying to move from being in offices to working from home, but also navigating what they needed to know around the increased levels of threat around security in a really pragmatic way. There was a lot of noise at that time about people, a lot of fear and uncertainty and doubt about what might or might not happen. And as ever, I think Sapphire kind of remained as pragmatic with good advice out to our clients and try to help them move forward with that. So, and I'm really pleased and thankful to say that we had a really good really good year really in the end, and the business is in good shape, and it's not something I take for granted at all, but it's really testament to the team that we have and how much they care about the business and how hard we work. So
excellent. So to me, Sapphire is one of those, I don't know if that's right, I would say purely cybersecurity focused companies. Most companies in this region that have cybersecurity or have other departments that do things. So how does it innovate in such a rapidly changing market? How to keep innovation?
Sure. I mean, I think it's something that's incredibly important for information security. You're right. It is the only thing that we concentrate on. So for us, it's really important to make sure that we are on the forefront of looking at new technologies that are coming in, new types of services, looking at the threat landscape. And also, I think it's important to listen. I mean, it's listening to what people are talking about. It's listening to what our customers are saying, the challenges that they're having. I think sometimes organizations in information security get a bad rep about trying to sell whatever they think, the customer needs to buy. And sometimes a bit guilty of being able to offer all things to all people. And that's one of the things I think we're really proud of, is just being able to give really, really good advice on what we're seeing across the board in terms of our customers, what our threat intelligence teams are seeing. We have a huge team of penetration testers. So we're really seeing the real world examples of the threats that are happening. And I think then it's just being able to make sure that we're stay as relevant as we possibly can and see what's coming down the road. And we, like lots of other organizations, have lots of people coming towards us all the time trying to talk to us about new technologies and new areas. So I think we've been doing this long enough, and I think that's the beauty, as you say, of having been around for so long, is we can really evaluate quite quickly what is just noise and actually what is something that we need to be moving into and that we need to be letting our customers know about. So I think it comes with experience, but I think it comes with listening as much as it does talking sometimes.
Okay, good. So in my opinion, the Northeast needs to do much more to compete on the certainly on the national but international cybersecurity stage. How do we get that balance right, do you think, between regional competition and collaboration?
I think there are some very specific things that are unique to the Northeast, which we can really leverage, which you don't typically get in other areas of the UK. And I've lived and worked in some of the other areas of the UK that I suppose I'm alluding to. And I think the thing about the Northeast, there is incredible sense of community, and I think pulling together. And I think that's where the real difference is going to come, I think, and is coming, I think, around what's happening in the Northeast already, particularly around obviously the work that Dynamo's doing. We're just on the eve of CyberFest. And I know that the kind of rocking the t-shirt there, Phil. But I know that there's been a lot of talk about CyberFest this year, much more so than I've noticed in previous years around this, about it being based being run again this year, that it's obviously based up in the Northeast, and I think that's a good thing. So I think it's about supporting one another, and it's leveraging the thing that I think the Northeast is very good at, which is basically being a part of a real community, sharing intelligence, collaborating, working together really well. So I think it's not about competing, I think, necessarily with different other areas. I think it's just about leveraging what our strengths are, and our strengths are exactly that. It's community, it's sharing of information, it's really singing about what the opportunity is and what the kind of jobs that are available, and and encouraging different firms into the region as well. And I think this is one of the benefits that we'll see off the back of the pandemic, I think, is the creation of jobs for people who are able to work remotely now. We've just seen in the press, obviously, that people like Just Eat have they're looking for so 16,000 new staff, I think, and they're looking specifically in the Northeast for that, I think. But because they're able to get people who can work from anywhere now, because we're so much more used to it, whereas that would have been a barrier before. So I think we'll see the creation of a lot more new jobs. But I think what's unique for us is is the people, how they pull together, how they collaborate, how they, you know, how we can be creative, and the talent that we have here already, I think, from the universities and, you know, organizations such as, you know, IC Squared, Osaka, you know, Dynamos, everyone pulling together rather than pulling in different directions. So yeah, that's what I think will really forge us as a region. So.
Well, yeah, gives me a nice segue into my next question, which is about CyberFest in its 4th year this year. So it's great to hear that you're hearing more about it. It's a mere infant, though, compared to the National Information Security Conference, which I think you've been running. What are the plans for the conference, and how does it remain fresh and vigorous every year?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It was really soul destroying for us. Last year was the first year that NISC didn't take place in its 21-year history. So it was really sad for us to have to move it. So we've moved it out to early 2022 now. So I've got our dates booked in for February. So we're really hoping that that will go ahead, and overwhelmingly the delegates that come, new and old, have expressed, you know, that very much that they want to come along. But you know, we wanted to make sure that we could do that in the safest way possible. But you're absolutely right. We look at this every year in terms of how do we change it, and I think the information security industry is changing. You know, we have obviously different types of events that are being run. There's a lot of free events that are run. You know, I think the way that we are meeting together and exchanging information is changing, and we have to make sure that we change and move with the times. So it's something that I take an active involvement in talking to the teams internally about how we keep it very fresh. And I think it's in that, you know, it's not ever a sales pitch for us. It has to be about really good, honest conversations, and a really a safe place for people to come and talk and share about the challenges they've got, and more importantly, hear how other people have overcome those challenges. I think that's the real key for us. So yeah, so it's something that's very much on our radar to make sure that we keep it relevant, because I think if you keep doing the same thing year in, year out, then there's every chance at some point it's going to become something that's a bit passé. And I think, you know, the newer events, particularly things like B-sides, they're really popular with the information security community. There's been loads of free events that have been run, you know, during lockdown, and it's amazing, you know, the types of speakers that have been at those events, and the type of support that they've had as well. So we need to think about these things. We need to think about how we're communicating, you know, and the types of people that are now in the industry, you know, what's going to be most relevant to them, and in what format. So these are all things that first and foremost in my mind, really, when we're looking at that.
Excellent. So we have a B-sides as part of CyberFest on the 10th and 11th. So a really amazing lineup of speakers, quite technical, not quite technical, although there's some arts and some, I think, a sheep farmer as well. So there's lots to think about. But anyway, changing the subject slightly, or am I? Tell us a bit about your work with radikl, if that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, sure. So radikl they're an organization who really want to help women in business, so really want to focus on supporting women entrepreneurs starting their own businesses. So at the moment, the landscape at the moment for investment in female-led businesses, the disparity is shocking. It's less than 1% of all VC funding currently goes to female-led businesses in the UK, and it's 0.24% to businesses that are led by women of colour, for example. So you know, the statistics are shocking. So what the organisation that We Are Radikl have put together is really aimed to support women to launch businesses and to be able to get the type of funding that they need moving forward to grow those. There was a report that was done a couple of years ago by Alison Rose on behalf of the government, and it went to show that actually if that many more women started their own businesses in the UK, it would add an additional 30 billion into the UK economy. And I can't think of a better time now than to be focusing in on that, really. So I was aware of them as an organisation last year. I was on a panel with one of the founders talking about women in leadership, and as a result was asked to to become on the, to go onto the board and to really help shape and steer the organisation moving forward. So something I feel very passionate about, which is not just only women in business, but obviously women in InfoSec. And yeah, so I'm really proud of the work that they're doing at the moment. And it's not just, for me, it's not just a gender conversation, but it's good for business. It's good for all of us. It's good for business. It's good for the economy. So why wouldn't people be interested in listening and hearing and changing that?
Absolutely, and it's great to see Catherine and Kimberly have set up the North East Ladies Hacking Society. But diversity is still such a problem. Why are we still talking about this?
Well, we are, because it's still a problem, I guess. Yeah, and it's great that Catherine and Kimberly are now the chapter leads for the Northeast. So I'm a director at Ladies Hacking Society, and one of my roles over the last couple of years was to extend the number of chapters that we had across the UK. And it was my first port of call, really, to come knocking on a few doors of people I know in the Northeast to see if they'd be up for the challenge. And delighted that Catherine and Kimberly said yes to that. And they've been actively running meetups throughout the year so far, and will continue to do so next year. I think it's, we still have problems. You look at the percentages in the industry, there are still problems here. And I think it is changing and it is being addressed, but we've got a way to go on it yet. So, and I think it's not only in terms of the recruitment, in terms of attracting women in to apply for jobs in the first place, because I know that's been an issue for a lot of people. But it's also having a look at the recruitment process, looking at the biases that exist during that, and what does a successful candidate look like might be different depending on what your unconscious biases might be. So we need to start challenging that a lot more. But I think it's also about, in InfoSec, talking about how the different skill sets can really help and shape and move the industry forward. I mean, we're focused on people and communication so much more than we ever were. If I think back to when I started my career in the late 90s, we weren't talking about communicating and security awareness on a level that we do now. We've grown to realize, painfully actually, because that's where it's hit us, where it's hurt, that actually, the people that are targeted, that actually where people are most successful is hitting the end user. And we need to make sure that the awareness is there so that they become an extra barrier of protection to help us. So I've heard the phrase being used, not just getting people to make people aware is one thing, getting people to care is another. So, and we need really good communicators in the industry to be able to talk about that in a non-technical way, in a way that people understand and they become emotionally involved in, making sure that their organizations are protected against cyber and understanding what the threats are. And we really need a really good cross-section of community to be involved in that conversation. Everyone has different skill sets in different areas, so it's really important, because there's still a challenge, and I would really love for us not to be having this conversation moving forward, and that would be at a time then, because actually we're not seeing the disparity that we're continuing to have, but it is getting there. But we need to focus not only on the recruitment, it's about the interview process, and also how we retain staff. I just saw some discussion on LinkedIn in the last week talking about how there's a really high proportion of women leaving cyber really quickly, in the first couple of years, and we've got really talented pool of people. How do we keep them? How do we keep them interested? What's causing them to leave? It costs employers a lot of money when people leave. So again, it's a business discussion to be having. Yeah. So we need to address.
So you have your own podcast series. I'm kind of muscling in on your own territory.
Security. I know. I'm on the receiving end of the questions, Phil. It's a very uncomfortable place to be. I'm usually asking the questions. So it's much easier.
Sorry, I put you through the mill. But what's your thinking behind this, and how's it all going?
Yeah. So SecuriTea and Two Sugars was a lockdown project of mine. All of a sudden, I found myself with a bit more time on my hands during the first lockdown, and I thought, well, now is a good a time as any to launch a podcast I've been thinking about for a while. And ultimately, for me, it's about people. So it just occurred to me that we go a lot to InfoSec events, and we hear people talking about their subject matter areas. But I'm always curious to know how they got into the industry. How do they end up doing what they're doing? What lessons have they learned along the way. People pick up they pick up little pearls of wisdom all the time, and how can I tap into that? And it's because I'm genuinely interested in speaking to the people that I've had on. So that's how it got started. I'm interviewing mainly women so far, although I have had a guy in series 1, and there will be more to come in series 2. But it's just really talking about a variety of people, showcasing all of the different types of job roles we have in InfoSec. So it's not just one type of role or person that I'm looking for on the podcast. I'm really wanting to inspire those people who want to get into InfoSec, or people who are in InfoSec that want to move forward in their careers. Hearing other people talking about their experiences, I always think that's really fascinating. So, and the response has been great to it so far, and I'm just in the process of starting the recordings for series 2 at the moment. And yeah, so something I've really enjoyed doing, actually. So it's been really great, but it just ticks my box because I get to ask all the questions I'm fascinated to.
We'll turn the tables on it. This is the 42nd one we've done of these, and it was a response to the pandemic, I think. So my last question for you, I could talk to you all day, Annabel, but it's the last question for you. So look, it's been a very challenging year. We're finally getting back to some sense of normality. What are your hopes in terms of the future?
I think, my communication internally within the business is my view is we're not out of the woods yet. We're still in the woods, I think, with regards to what's going on at the moment with the pandemic. But we are seeing us forging forward into a new way of working, and I think it's be interesting to see how that pans out. But also I think the opportunities that presents itself, as I was mentioning earlier, in terms of recruitment and expansion. And we are in the process of still recruiting and expanding at Sapphire at the moment, and it's opened that many more avenues to us, which has been great. We're also in the process of launching some new services at the moment, which will be launching in the next couple of weeks, and expanding some of our existing divisions and expanding into other areas. So there's lots and lots of work going on at the moment, which we'll be advertising over the next couple of months, which is really exciting for us. So so it's further really growth and expansion of the company, but keeping really at the heart of what we do, its core values, how we treat our customers, making sure, as I said, that we give the right advice and pragmatic advice. We're here in terms of long-term relationships. You don't get to be still in the industry 25 years later with the reputation that we have got without keeping that at the heart of what we do, and that's been really important to keep front and center since I've been running the business. So lots of excitement times, really good ramp up in terms of staff again for us over the next couple of months, which is brilliant. But yeah, just keeping to our core values. But yeah, it's exciting times. So.
No, indeed. Well, anyway, thank you very much for that, Annabel. That was really great. I'd also like to thank Robert Campbell, who helps me out in the background, sets up these InConversations. Look out for the next in our series. If you're interested in taking part, please get in touch, and I'll see you at CyberFest throughout September. Thanks, Annabel.
Thanks, Phil.
That was InConversation with Phil Jackman, lead for CyberNorth. Audio and video production was by me, Robert Campbell. This was a Team Funds production for Dynamo Northeast.